What's up, guys? I'm John.
My name is Chris.
And we are the Heck, and today we're going to be checking out everything that was skipped in the first episode of freaking Solo Leveling. And I'm stoked about this because there's a lot of stuff that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really feel like I would like to start watching some of these episodes more like the what was skipped for each one, because I know the manga covers a lot and the anime only has like 20 something minutes to really cover that. So in saying that, if you guys are down for watching us do these lore episodes, comment it down below. Let us know if you guys like this or not.
Yeah.
And also like the video and smash the sub button. And let's freaking get into this, homies. If y'all also do want to watch our reactions, unedited and all that stuff, and also support our channel, there's a link to our Patreon in the description below. But for now, let's freaking do this.
Whoop.
And then hit that play button. Boom!
Season 2 opens with all the glorious action we could ever want from a solo leveling anime. Sung showed off in more ways than one. His shadow soldiers got to participate in their first ever battle, and Icarus styled on his opponent like he was Let Me Solo Her fighting against Millennia.
That was a good reference.
Episode, though, it's easy to forget about the overall story behind it. This is something the novel takes its time building up, since it answers questions like, how did this gate become a red gate? Why does Sung feel a personal responsibility to help out Song Yi?
Yeah.
What's going on with everyone else in the story?
Yeah.
Quite a bit the
Dude,
novel
so
adds
much.
built upon the story, and that's exactly what I'm going to talk about here.
Good, I'm glad we're watching
the
this.
anime left out from the manhwa and web novel. So, if you want to see what else solo leveling has to offer
I didn't know
beyond
that
its
either.
continuous string of conflicts, stick around because it really does make the world that much more captivating.
That's awesome, dude. Okay.
You aren't E rank, are you? Covering chapters 46 to 52 from the manhwa and chapters 54 to 62 from the web novel. To start with Sung's preparations for the meeting, there were quite a few things he needed to get done beforehand. He needed to find clothes that actually fit, and he needed to secure money to allow him to buy said clothes. All his previous formal wear now burst at the seams since he was so much bigger.
Wow.
This was a predicament that ended up solving itself because out of the corner of his eye, Sung had spotted the bank book Jinwoo gave him. Within it was all the money the two had earned from selling the magic crystals they found during their raids together. Sung wasn't sure how much was in it, but he figured he'd be able to go on a shopping spree using it.
Right.
It was before he did, though, that first Sung would review his status. He couldn't help but admire just how lengthy it had become. It wasn't until just yesterday that quite a few of these slots were empty, though, so now that they were filled, he felt a great sense of pride and accomplishment.
That is awesome.
In fact, before, when the job class section always listed none, Sung would get frustrated every time he saw it. He knew it didn't actually mean he had no job, but the message he interpreted from it constantly bothered him.
I feel that.
It was as if it was making a mockery of who he was before the system. Sung knew this was nothing more than his inferiority complex talking, but it couldn't be helped
always there,
considering
like
what
behind
he'd
him, you
always
know?
had to go through. You see, after years of introducing himself as the E rank, the shame he felt knowing people were always mocking him behind his back really stuck with him even now.
Damn.
Now that he had a really cool job class, though, Sung was completely and utterly satisfied with himself.
That is pretty awesome.
No longer was he worried about other people's
So he gained a
perception
whole
of him.
lot of confidence then.
Yeah.
He was more so intrigued by how people would react to him now. Like, just thinking about Jinho's stunned face when he would finally get to see his shadow army, that was enough to put a massive smile on his face.
Well, and then too, like, so spoilers, we've already watched episode 2, and like whenever he's walking out of the gate and that guy like puts his hand on his shoulder, he was like, I also saved your people, so you should show me gratitude before any of this. And like just that confidence, you know what I mean? I don't know that, like, I think that the cool thing about him is it's like he earned any respect that he has for himself now, and thus I think it's more real than like this false arrogance where like if his parents were rich and bought him really nice armor or something, he's essentially earned any of that respect.
Yeah, I mean, he freaking went through hell.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
And he literally died. I mean, like, pretty much got killed to get there. I mean, like, yes, I feel like his resolve in himself is like freaking just the most strong steel, you know?
It was this thought which led Sung to think about what his new powers were capable of, going so far as to ponder if he could extract shadows from hunters. Obviously, such a situation wasn't one he'd ever want to be in, but the thought of doing so gave him chills. He couldn't even fathom how powerful the shadow of an A or S rank hunter could be. Even if it was only 50% of their original strength, Sung fully believed the presence of one would allow him to solo high rank dungeons. So, the only thing preventing him from committing to the idea fully was the thought of how sinister such an act was. Unless a truly evil hunter showed up to give him trouble, Sung wasn't willing to subject anyone to that. No. For now, he knew he'd just have to be satisfied with the shadow monsters.
Iron. Oh god.
Igris was more than powerful enough.
I was like, you dropped that pretty
In
quick.
addition to everything Sung had earned from the job quest dungeon, he had also gained 10 additional ability points. Before, these would have been put right into agility and perception, but now that his shadow skills operated on mana, every single point went into intelligence instead.
Yeah,
dude, that's so good though, man.
Strengthened the others, but Sung didn't plan on it being that way for long.
So, but all right, really quick though. So he said that it all went into his intelligence, but spoiler for episode 2 as well too. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I'm so sorry, but we are probably just gonna come out after our second.
Yeah.
So, but essentially, like him being able to speak with that elvish person, like do you think that has something to do with it?
Probably either intelligence or perception. I don't know.
I don't know which one either.
Or it could be something that we don't know about. Yeah. Considering
there's so much left out.
The glitch or whatever and all that stuff.
Well, the thing is, like, that glitch, dude.
Didn't mean he was going to change the way he fought, though, since for now these shadow skills would just be his backup. His dagger was always going to remain as his primary means of combat. It was too much of a waste to throw away everything he'd already put into it so far.
Right.
Still, Sung was amazed at just how useful his shadow skills were, since that single aspect alone, allowing him to extract bosses through it, made it so much more incredibly valuable. So, 20 minutes would pass with Sung thinking about his powers, then another 3 after where he would use said powers to help himself get ready faster. He didn't know yet how best he was going to use Commander's Touch, but at the very least he could have it help him retrieve his keys from the kitchen.
Dude, wasn't that what we were talking about? How strong do you get before you stop doing random things like that?
How much money was in this account? Usually Jinho
I'd still take showers.
But when it came to money, Jinho didn't talk about it at all. It was just one of those things that he couldn't be bothered by.
The brilliant
Such
regalia.
Disregard puts into perspective just how wealthy Jinho is, because when Sung had gone and checked the balance of the account, it was revealed to have over $1 million in it.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Sung had earned himself well over $100,000 a day. Each C-rank dungeon had netted him between $150,000 and $200,000 in revenue.
Wow.
The teller would then try to sell Sung on the VIP services the bank offered, giving him his first taste of what being a high-ranking hunter felt like.
Whoa.
It was something he knew he'd have to get used to, because the moment his new rank became public, he would effectively become a celebrity. Another change was the wealth he simply wasn't used to, which after a haircut and some splurging at a department store,
I did notice the haircut.
Would come to see why having money was way better than not having money.
Yeah.
He would then head to the school, reminisce of the time he had these interviews himself, then remember how no one ever showed up for them. It wasn't because his parents were neglectful though, but rather because he simply didn't tell them. Since this was back when his mother was visiting the hospital more frequently, Sung didn't want to burden her with something so trivial. Now, the interview went pretty much as we saw,
like her face looked
to help
kind of like a
Song Yi. As soon as Sung heard that she was an E rank, he immediately knew it wouldn't be long before she was either dead or crippled. Such was the fate for those ranked at the bottom. The dungeon was simply no place for an E rank. Normally Sung wouldn't have cared at all, but because she was a person he was somewhat acquainted with, he felt a certain responsibility to teach her why the dungeon wasn't for her. So, when Sung had gone to pick her up to take her to the raid, that's when he saw her circumstances weren't very different from his own. She lived in a place that indicated she wasn't very well off, and that made it clear that she was likely just trying to provide for herself. This was a reason Sung knew he couldn't
I'm glad that
judge
we're
her
figuring
for,
that out
since
too.
He too did the exact same thing. He had put himself in harm's way just to provide for his family.
That was just
so
bad.
Much as Sung wanted to stop being a hunter back then, he knew he couldn't because his mother's life depended on it. Song Yi's circumstances may not be exactly the same, but she could have her own reasons as to why she needs to keep being a hunter. Either way, Sung was going to show her exactly what awaited her in the dungeon. He framed it as him simply trying to mold her into a better hunter, but in actuality was bringing her just so that she could see the cruel reality of it all. One terrifying instance was more than enough to show the truth.
That
At least
face
that's
is
how
still
it
the
was
most
for him.
freaking messed
Now,
up and wild
it was
shit I've seen in
between
an
all this
anime,
that
dude. That was
Jinho
so
had
cool.
his own massive scene, one that highlighted the dynamic between him, his brother, his father, and even his cousin. The whole event was an ancestral rites ceremony for his grandfather, something Jinho wasn't particularly interested in. He was tucked away in a corner, bored out of his mind, paying no attention to any of the elites currently present. This was meant to serve as a contrast to Jinho's brother, who the novel paints as one of the most exceptional people there.
Oh, damn.
With perfect grades and numerous successful business ventures, he was the cream of the crop while Jinho just couldn't compare. Luckily, Jinho's cousin Suyeon was there to lighten the mood, making fun of his brother and his stuck-up attitude. Her lighthearted insults weren't something Jinho could get behind though, since if he wanted to get back at his brother, he knew he simply had to beat him. That brought into conversation the topic of his plan to become a guildmaster, something Suyeon apparently already knew about. The reason why that is because as an A-rank hunter herself, she really didn't want to work for Jinho's brother.
It's wild
it was
that,
only
like...
natural she become a member of whatever guild the head of the family was
How did he
forming,
get, like, the
but to do so
weakling
under
genes,
Jin
you
Sung's
know?
leadership,
Yeah.
well, let's just say she'd rather die. I won't get too deep into what else the two discussed, but just know that this is where her character is actually debuted. For the anime, it's likely we'll see her later. Now, there was also a scene where Jinho's dad would reveal his own impressions, highlighting the harsh tutelage under which Jinho and his siblings were brought up under. It could essentially be described as a tiger wanting to raise cubs instead of kittens. Jinho's brother and sister were the cubs, while he unfortunately was seen as the kitten.
Yeah.
This brings us now to yet another massive cutscene, one depicting how the Red Gate had become a Red Gate.
Yes.
Long story short, it was pretty much due to professional incompetence. A gate measuring device was found to be acting up, but rather than report and rescind the permits for the 7 gates it recently measured like how the employees who found the device were supposed to, they instead decided to simply ignore it.
Oh,
The
damn.
potential trouble it could cause made them feel like they could lose their job over it. Some of those troubles included the additional resources the association would have to spend remeasuring the gates, while the guilds who bought them would get upset that they couldn't do their raids anymore. Plus,
Damn.
with the additional delay increasing the chances of a dungeon break, all were potential issues that made losing their job seem more and more likely.
So it's literally their
for a
own
job
fault.
like this,
Yeah,
where
pretty
getting
much.
in was as hard as passing the bar, just the thought of losing it was enough to make these employees disregard the error. They were well aware the consequences could easily cost the lives of the hunters going into these gates, but since nothing was reported in the 2 days since the 7 gates were measured, they figured the remaining 4 left to be completed should be fine as well. That's why the Red Gate was improperly rated. The initial reading was placed at C, but the faulty nature of the measuring device made such a reading inaccurate. It was more likely this gate was at the B or A rank. The fact the
Damn.
Red Gate spawned was enough to prove it. It was impossible for Red Gates to spawn from anything lower than the B rank. That's why Beck was so mad when he got here, because the whole thing was a mistake that easily could have been avoided.
Okay, I gotcha. That
I mean,
makes sense.
even
then.
after the gate turned red and the guild called the association still denied that any mistakes were made.
Sounds
They
about
insisted
right.
Yeah,
that
dude.
it was a
God.
C-rank
Straight
gate,
up.
despite Beck knowing himself that it was higher. So the whole thing just didn't make sense to him. In any case, the
Dang.
last scene left out from the novel was a small side part showing the home life of An. He was living his bachelor life watching the news, listening to reports of an unexplained explosion within the American Hunters Association headquarters.
Oh.
There were rumors that the cause was due to a new rising talent causing friction among the S-ranked hunters.
This guy?
It was before An could hear more about it, though, that Sung would call and make his request. An believed this to be Sung showing interest in the White Tiger Guild, so it was only natural he say yes to whatever Sung was asking him for. If anything,
Okay.
this was a great way to show just how exceptional the guild's training system was. That brings us to when the Red Gate incident begins, but rather than talk about that and stop halfway through, I'll instead do all of it in the next video.
Okay.
To finish things up, I just want to talk about some extra scenes with Hwang Dong-soo. So, when him and Woo were in the airport, Hwang had actually tried to recruit Woo to the Scavenger Guild.
Oh, damn.
This was an invitation Woo would never accept because both him and the association knew just how terrible both Hwang Dong-soo and his brother were.
God,
I
man.
mean, it was obvious what Dong-suk was doing in the dungeons,
Dong
but the
Suk is like
association
the
could never investigate
Best name ever, dude.
Yeah.
Dong Suk.
That being the case, Woo really didn't like how either of them never showed guilt for committing the murders he knew they were responsible for. Now, the other scene involved Woo asking Dong-soo if he wanted to see his brother, but surprisingly Dong-soo said he didn't care for the dead. He was a bit curious about what happened for the funeral, but as of right now, his only concern was the trash his brother left behind.
Dang.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video.
Well, all right.
It's everything you missed from the events leading up to the Red
fighting
Gate.
then.
AniNews, thank you very much for keeping us in that loop, dude.
Yeah, for real. That was a lot of good things.
Yeah, there's so much that was really left out of that. Also, too, like, because with the Red Gate spawning was one of mine where I'm like, what? Like, what even is this? And
yeah.
And he was so pissed off whenever he got at the Red Gate and realized that it was like a Red Gate. And I was like, why is he so mad? It's just a freak thing that happens. But I didn't realize that they thought it was like a C-ranked place, but it could have been at least had to have been a B or an A.
Yeah.
And if it was an A that turned red, I'm over here thinking
Does that
like,
mean it's stronger?
Yeah.
Wow.
And holy crap, dude, how strong is he right now? How strong's our homie?
He's getting there.
I don't know, dude. I can't wait to find out like when they rank him, how he ranks. But I don't think they're gonna be able to like. And then too,
like with the army, it's increased though. So like personally, it would be lower. I'd say.
You think it's gonna be lower?
Like,
where do you think
personally? Like just him alone, like is something, and then plus the army,
yeah,
he would be more.
Yeah, okay,
because it's like adding more to.
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
But I don't
like,
know what he would be like alone.
Yeah,
without the army.
Yeah, for sure. But dude, one thing that I'm thinking is like, okay, so I know that we don't necessarily have level counts on like S ranks and stuff, but if you're in a video game and you're playing, like, dude, 100 would be an S rank. You know what I mean? Like normally, or at least an A.
If that's the cap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but then like if there's no cap, what the heck?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, dude. I don't know, man. But I'm very excited. So we actually just already watched episode 2. So if you guys are watching this right now, episode 2 should already be up on our Patreon at least, or on our YouTube as well too. So check that out. And then if you guys want to follow our journey of solo leveling, we've got all of season 1 on YouTube and Patreon, and we're going to be doing all the episodes on YouTube and Patreon as well too, and a lot of these lore in between. So yeah, I don't know. Hope y'all having a blessed one. If you need anything at all, message us, and we'll catch y'all then. Freaking toodles.
Later.
Bye.